I'm still considering which GPU to get for my budget gaming PC console equivalent system that I'm going to be using to play games with sort of a Steam machine equivalent setup at my TV, playing at hopefully 2K, but you know, if I can, I'm going to be sitting a ways away from the TV, so even if it has to be HD in some games, that's okay, but I'm going to try for 2K, and the target is 2K 60 FPS because it is a 60 Hz TV, so play at 2K, throw on that VSync, and hopefully you can reach 60 in most games, even if you have to use some upscaling or, you know, some new technologies like FSR or DLSS or whatever else would work best in whatever scenario. And today, two options that I'm looking at is the RX7600 from AMD and the RTX 4060 from Nvidia. The RX 7600 is a relatively recent card. The 4060, you know, it's not old per se, but it's not something you're going to buy new at this point. The price-wise, the 4060 second-hand in South Africa goes for about 4,500 Rand if you can get it for a good price. And at that price point, it is matching the 7600 second-hand. But the 7600 second-hand is only going to be used for a few months, and the 4060 is going to be used for a couple of years at this point. So you should always take that into consideration when you are looking at buying second-hand parts or second-hand GPUs specifically. Now, the 4060 is an 8GB card, and the RX 7600 is also an 8GB card. And, you know, since these are exactly the same price secondhand and they both have the same amount of VRAM, it's going to be an interesting test. It's going to come down to whether you prefer AMD or Nvidia. And so it's going to be interesting to see. If we talk about, you know, new pricing, the RX 7600 is 5,500 to 6,000 Rand if you can get it on a sale. I've seen it for as high as 7,000 Rand, so it depends on where you buy it, but I have seen it for as low as 5,500 new on sale. The 4060, when it was new, it was about 8,000 Rand. So, but now, you know, secondhand pricing, they are matched precisely. So it's going to be an interesting test. Let's see how these cards perform when you put them against each other. So first up here, we have a game called Wu Chang. And this game is, I think it's quite beautiful. There's a lot going on. The visual fidelity is quite high. Both of these cards are running at HD right now, and they are running at the highest preset. And both of them are getting right around 59 FPS, so very similar in this case. Both are good results, but for HD, you know, 60 FPS is the bare minimum when you're spending a bunch of money. Moving on to The Witcher 3, it's an older game at this point, HD, no ray tracing, ultra settings across the board, no upscaling. It is only HD, so upscaling isn't necessary, but you know, you are getting 66 in the case of the RX 7600 average, and in the case of the 4060, 70 average. So both good results. If you do go 2K, of course, you're just going to throw on those upscalers, DLSS and FSR respectively, and you'll still be around the same performance metrics. Both of the frame times are relatively smooth, but the AMD frame time seems a bit smoother. Last of Us 2, a game that I would want to play, running at custom settings, mostly high, and the 7600 is getting an average of 93. The 4060 is getting an average of 98. So again, both are good results. Oh man, my eyes are being tickled by my hair. My hair is a bit long. Both are good results. I think you could push 2K for this, even natively, but you know, maybe 4K with upscaling is also a consideration. Both look good. Again, the RX 7600 frame time looks a bit smoother, but both are very good, and these cards are, you know, doing very well in these games. Moving on here to the Silent Hill 2 remake. Let's take a look at those settings again. Seems like high preset with no ray tracing but no upscaling. And this is a bit more demanding. High preset at HD, 39 average on the 7600. Let me just double check that ray tracing there, because that is no ray tracing, but no upscaling either. Okay. It's a bit low on the AMD side of things. On Nvidia side, it is getting 53, so that's a bit better, but you would hope for better on AMD side. Now, Unreal Engine 5 game, Unreal Engine 5 is a mess, as we all know. But again, on the RTX side, on the 4060 side, it's okay. 50, it's still not amazing, but 38 on the RX7600, that's just not gonna cut it. So I think you would have to use upscaling in that case. But for both of these, it's not the best result, but the 4060 wins by far in this one specifically. Red Dead Redemption 2, another game that I would play, all set to high, no upscaling. The 7600 is getting an average of 90, and the 4060 is getting an average of 99. So generally, it seems like the 4060 is a better purchase, but I think it depends on exactly what you want to do and exactly the games that you want to play. But so far, the 4060 is doing a fair bit better than the RX 7600, non-XT to be fair. Spider-Man 2, no ray tracing, high across the board, no upscaling, and that's a bit better from AMD there. 72 average on the RX 7600, and on the 4060, 83 average. So both are good results. I love how there's even a rat there. It's just like a real city. And another game that I would want to play with a remote. So that's why I'm doing these tests, right? Because I'm going to be sitting back with an Xbox controller. This is the old one, but you get the point. Sitting back with an Xbox controller, playing games, hopefully playing them at 2K. And, just if it runs like this, I'm going to be happy. Now, this is HD compared to 2K, but if at 2K, even with upscaling, if I can just get it to that 60 mark, I would be more than happy. And it seems like these games are Spider-Man 2 is a demanding game, but it's running really well with these cards. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be fine. Moving on to here, Horizon Forbidden West, and this is 1080p high settings. We are looking at 56 average on the 7600 and 73 average on the 4060. Again, the 4060 is in the lead by a fair bit here, and the AMD card is not doing too well, almost at the 60 mark, but at HD resolution, you would hope to be above that mark. The RTX card faring a lot better in this test. Another game that I would play, and I have to say the 4060 is looking a lot more respectable at this point. Hogwarts Legacy, Ultra, no ray tracing, but Ultra HD. Not 4K, I just mean Ultra settings on HD. 64 average on the RX 7600 and 68 average on the 4060. So these are a lot closer. Looking at all of these games, these are mostly AAA games. It's interesting. I want to take a look at Doom. I'm going to skip GTA because it's not really necessary. We'll take a look at God of War. High settings, 86 average on the RX 7600 and 88 average on the 4060. So these are a lot closer. Another game that I would like to play. Interesting how close these tests are. It's 88 for both now, 89 for both now, 90 for both now. So interesting how close they are. This is an example where, the price is matched precisely, and in this game, the performance is matched almost precisely. Again, though, the AMD frame time is looking a bit smoother there, but both are really good results. We'll take a look at Doom: The Dark Ages. Now, this game requires ray tracing. This is 1080p medium settings, and using a TAA upscaling. 55 average on the 7600 and 67 average on the 4060. Now, Nvidia is going to have an advantage in this one because it is a ray tracing game, and Nvidia, are the best at ray tracing. So, if you're specifically a Doom or Indiana Jones fan, I think it makes sense to look at the Nvidia card. Nvidia, of course, have a bit of a bad rep at the moment because they did Nvidia things once again. Maybe talk about that in a separate video. But around 50 on the 7600 average and around 60 on the 4060. So the 4060 again here in the lead by a fair bit. Looking at Cyberpunk here, and this is going to run at HD high settings, ultra in some cases, and we are looking at 65 average on the 7600 and 71 average on the 4060. So for the most part, the 4060 is going to beat the 7600, it seems. It's interesting to me that that is the case when you look at the secondhand pricing. Now, I don't know in the US or in Europe, or in the rest of Africa or Asia, what the price difference would be between these cards. I only know about South Africa, and in South Africa they are priced the same secondhand. And I am considering a secondhand card for this machine that I keep talking about because it just makes sense. If, like me, you have a source that is trustworthy. In my case, that source is Carbonite. But if you don't have a source like that, maybe it does make sense to buy it new. In my case, I think, buying from a reputable marketplace and making sure the person you buy from has a reputable reputation goes a long way. I'm kind of finishing up with the video, but this is an interesting case here because this is a new and difficult to run game. And it seems like for the first time the 7600 is actually in the lead with something, which is pretty interesting. But, bar this one game, I do think the 4060 makes a lot more sense. It has better ray tracing support. It is rasterized, seems to be faster. It has better upscaling technologies, better, specifications bandwidth-wise, and, in terms of memory, they are closely matched. But I think just all around the 4060 is a better card. So I guess it just comes down to exactly what you need to do. But for me, I would consider the 4060. Now, I did see a 5060 today for just 1,000 Rand more than this. So perhaps I should compare the 4060 and the 5060 and see what the difference is, and if that 1,000 Rand difference is going to be enough to validate getting the newest card, the 5060, which is getting close to the card that I have in my main machine, which is a 5070. So it's going to be interesting to make that comparison. But for this one, the Nvidia is the clear winner. It just is. It's just doing much better. In this game, Black Ops 6, we are looking at 78 average on the 7600 and 65 on the 4060, which is interesting. It seems like some of the newer games do support AMD a bit more. So maybe if you play exclusively Call of Duty, this is an interesting use case to maybe get the AMD card. But realistically, both of these cards are going to be fine. It just seems like the 4060 is getting you a bit more bang for your buck. So those are my thoughts on it. What do you think? Out of these two cards, what would you get? Would you pay a bit more for a new card and just not bother with this? Do you think these cards are getting too old now anyway, especially in the case of the 4060? Or do you think it's okay to go ahead and get one? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I hope to see you in the next one.